Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Saga. I'm David Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited to kick this off with you because you read a lot of books.
Yes.
And that is key for this series of shows because the reason why it's called Beyond the Saga is we are exploring more of the material that is in the expanded universe, right? Anything that's not part of the movie saga, in a sense, or even the TV saga. We're not even really going to get into the whole TV stuff because we got other shows that we talk about that. This is all the publication material that you don't really know about or don't really get into. And then we might even dive in because I think it sounded like you were excited when we were talking offline about maybe talking about some games in this as well, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I think that's what we're going to focus on with this is the novels, the comics, the games, stories that are within those that we want to talk about and review and really push out there. Now that's the thing too is I don't want this to be just a review episode, whereas we're doing stuff that's coming out. We really want to go back and revisit a lot of the material that's been coming out over the last few years. I've given Hannah a bunch of books over the last few months. I'd say what is it, Aftermath books, the
Thrawn, Bloodline, Dark Disciple,
yes,
Alphabet Squad,
yes. So
Queen's Peril.
That's right. So we're going to be talking about those stories and really the goal of this is to give everybody an overview of what those stories are so that you can really go and check those out and just encompass yourself with a lot more stories and characters that Star Wars is putting out. So on this inaugural episode, we do want to talk about a book that did come out this year and just recently, and that is Queen's Peril by E.K. Johnston. And this is the second book in the series of stories revolving around Padme Amidala and her handmaidens. We both have also read Queen's Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So this was high on my list to get because Queen's Shadow was such a good book. But I will say, I need to probably preface this on this, I am not a reader. I listen to all the audiobooks. So I've listened to all the books that have come out. I've not read any of them. Of course, I have to read the comics because they don't make audio comics. Maybe that's something they should do.
That would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I probably can get on board with that also, I think. Yeah. But let's dive right in because what we're going to do is just kind of center around some questions and really talk about the book a little bit and hopefully get people excited to read this if they haven't read it yet. So we have I feel like two different experiences with this book. You read it.
Oh.
I listened to it, right? So let's dive into that first on the reading side of it. General overview of what you thought about the book.
Overview, I loved it. I actually liked it better than Queen's Shadow.
Ah, okay.
I liked it better than Queen's Shadow. To me, when it comes to the background of any character, it's so interesting. And this whole book is, in general, about identity
mm-hmm.
and double identity. And like obvious examples, which this isn't a spoiler because we all know it, is if you don't know it by now, sorry.
Yeah.
Is Darth Sidious and Palpatine. They reference that in the book. So we get that glaring example. But then we get the other example, which is also not a spoiler, is that Padme has a double. But in this book, we really get to explore that double and the group that surrounds her that we see in the prequels. Which, to me, when I was watching the prequels, I always wondered who are those women? Why are they always with her?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
handmaidens, big deal. But you get into the book and you actually find out, with the theme of identity going even deeper, all of those young women give up their own identities so that they can protect Padme, who's Queen Amidala.
Yes.
And then the other main character in the books is Sabine,
Mm-hmm.
who turns her name to Sabe,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both Queen Amidala. And that
Mm-hmm.
gets a little messy, but without giving too much away, we then see a different story going on at the same time as the Phantom Menace. And by
Yes.
different, I mean like a different point of view. So in general, that's like a general, really long review of the book and what is in it.
Yeah.
But for me, it really helps establishes the character of Padme. To me, I admire her a lot more now because of that book
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and because of Queen's Shadow. It establishes so much,
It does.
especially
Yeah.
her interest in the political side. And I won't get into the other part of the book that I really, really enjoyed until later, but in
Yeah.
general.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. General speaking for me, I think, I think I liked it as much as Queen Shadow. Not necessarily because I felt like they were very similar in nature. You know, obviously a continuing part of it. You know, it was you go back and learn how these women got to know each other and the pressure that was under them, and which I thought was really good. Seeing that in this book, but very surprised on the decision of having it coincide with episode one. Like I thought that was a really creative, interesting decision to do, right? Especially because it's been 20 years since episode one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now there's a lot of stories coming out. The Clone Wars has still kind of been around to contribute to that part of the timeline, but I thought that was an interesting move, and I think it worked. I think it really worked. So overall, I thought it was a great addition to this series. I've grown to love the character of Padme. I think she's an incredible. The clear definition of what she is and who she is clearly lends itself and explains why Leia is how she is. Right? It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what they've been doing with that. So overall, that right there, I think that's enough for everybody to go check this book out. But but again, you know, I listened to it. So the great thing about listening to it was that I actually got Catherine Tabor's voice reading the book to me, who is Padme's voice in the Clone Wars, right? So
Which must have been an awesome experience.
it's incredible experience. You know, she did the same for Queen Shadow. So it's almost as if you have Padme telling you this story, right? It's phenomenal, you know. So I encourage everybody to, if they haven't checked out audiobooks before, Star Wars audiobooks are like listening to a Star Wars movie. It's pretty incredible. So one of the first topics I want to talk about, Hannah, is basically simply what are one of the two things that you do remember most about this book after reading it?
So one of the things that stood out to me was actually the first time that Sabine and Padme met.
Mm. Mm.
I just thought that was, oh, it gave me chills because the fact that Sabine already walked into this knowing what she was doing, why she was perfect for basically being Padme's double, and almost immediately because of her musical training, she is a musician. She's not the best musician, but she is a musician.
Right.
And
Right.
because of that, she immediately falls into that, basically that backup, and she already immediately started mirroring Padme.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to me, just seeing that relationship start from the beginning, that was memorable. The other thing that was memorable for me, and is probably one of my favorite parts of the book, is the fact that we see what happens on Naboo during Phantom Menace. Because
Yes.
watching the movie, I never truly understood, as a kid, older finally got it. But as a kid, I never understood the stakes. I was like, okay, it's a political thing. There's a blockade. Big deal.
Yeah.
They don't look that concerned. But in the book, you actually see what the people of Naboo are going through. And I know you can touch on that because the audiobook gave a very specific point of view of that, which, but when you read it, you go, oh my word, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is really bad. So it just helps bring more perspective to Phantom Menace that I kind of that was missing from the movie.
Yes, 100% agree. Yep. Yeah, I think the part you're talking about, and I think I actually called you or texted you right after that.
You did.
And yeah, what the part you're talking about is because to put it out there is, what you don't understand in Phantom Menace is that they only have a weeks of supplies for the people of Naboo. That's where the dire tension of time becomes relevant in episode 1, because you don't get that sense that she's against the clock, really, right? She's just worried about her people, but the blockade is preventing supplies from coming into Naboo for the people, and there are concerns. And you're right, and I can't remember which handmaiden was it that gets captured. It's either Irte or Yane, isn't it? I think it might be Yane.
I think it was Yane, but I think a group of them were captured because a group of them went to those camps that were essentially prisons. I mean, there really isn't a better term for what they were.
Oh, and I actually I had it in my notes here. It's actually Sasha that gets grabbed. And so on the audiobook, there's other characters that are talking, and they're trying to find out where the queen is. So they're torturing Sasha. Now in the book, which you read, it says that she's getting tortured, right? And maybe you hear screams. Well, in the audiobook, you hear the screams, and it's not just somebody yelling. It is agonizing. And I gotta keep saying, I gotta play it for you next time I see you. It is. I mean, I remember I was actually mowing the grass when I was listening to this part of the book, and I had to stop. And just take a second and be like, wow, this is actually horrifying what I'm hearing. And immediately, I think that's when I might have texted you. I said, I'm telling you, this book is taking a turn right now, because I was into it, but man, this has become real. I feel like, So that's one of the main things I remember about the audio side of it. I think just in general, the story, I love learning about the reasons why Panaka chose each one of those handmaidens, right? They were chosen because of a specific skill they possess. And again, that is something that you don't know watching episode 1. Like you said earlier, they're handmaidens. What does that mean? They get her coffee, they dress her, they put her to bed, I don't know. No, they are skilled. And then they learn how to defend themselves, and they learn how to defend each other. And that is fantastic, because that's information I didn't really know about.
Well, it even goes further than that, in that they try to at least learn the basics of each other's skills, and then they constantly swap places.
Absolutely.
And they all look similar. So at any point, no one knows who each person is, and then each of them has a job that could correlate to their specific talent, so that if they were doing something, it didn't look suspicious. And sure, like, you have someone dressing the queen, but I'm not going to give away what awesome stuff happens.
Yeah.
with those articles and clothing. Just saying. Should have been a Phantom Menace. Should have, but
Yes, agreed.
So it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's just so much thought that goes into it. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Mind-blowing.
It is. So we kind of hit on this next topic, but we can kind of expand on it. As far as sequels go, even though this is a prequel book, how well do you think the two books, complemented each other? Did the second book further the story from the first book to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It flowed like that. There was no break. It pretty much took place very soon after Peril ended. Shadow took off.
Right.
I mean, it was flawless. It was absolutely flawless.
Yeah, I was surprised a little bit because it's very difficult to do prequels, right? Because you don't want to introduce something that should have been in the later on. It's almost like, in a sense, it's almost like when you did the prequel trilogy, when you're watching the prequel trilogy, episodes 1, 2, and 3, you could almost get the sense that, wait, why is technology looks like so much better than it does in the original trilogy, right? But there's explanations that what you see in the original trilogy is just old and hand-me-downs and kind of, but that technology does exist. But anyway, you could make the mistake of introducing something that doesn't make sense why it didn't exist in the first book, right? But I agree with you. I think you could read this first and literally go right into Queen Shadow.
Oh yeah.
And not feel like it was that book was done first. So I think she did a really good job with that.
Yes.
Are there things that you learned about these characters or Star Wars in general that you didn't know prior to reading this?
I mean, honestly, I think it goes back to how well it helps fill in the blanks of Phantom Menace. I learned so much. It's like it was like a series of light bulbs going off. It's like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand why that is so important and why it was such a big deal, even though in the movie you're kind of just like, I think there was maybe one throwaway line about the blockade blocking supplies, but still stakes weren't there. I also just think it helped develop Padme's character so much, and it helps you learn why she was so passionate about politics.
Yeah.
And it's not boring politics. Politics can get very boring, but in this book, I was pleasantly surprised about how the politics were just as engaging as, say, a fight scene.
Yeah.
It was that intense, and that's the intensity that needs to be there. So seeing her passion for it and seeing her character develop and see her form these relationships and really also just compliment her brilliance and her intelligence. And she's so much more than just a speaking head, than Anakin's love interest. She's more than that. She is a queen.
Yeah.
And
right.
will always be a queen. So I think that's what I took away from the book, because I just have so much more respect for her.
But are there any lingering questions? Do you have?
I don't think I have any.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me was wondering. It's interesting because her exchange with Anakin in the book, which we don't see her side of that. We just see the aftermath of it, of like, oh yeah, there was a little boy on the planet.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting because I thought that he left a really strong impression on her. But with reading the book, it was almost like, oh, he's just a little boy. Oh, you like, oh, he's with the Jedi, so I'm not going to mess with that. And then Like,
that's a really good point.
So, but now that I think about it, in Attack of the Clones, when she's like, Annie, oh my gosh, you've grown. It is very much of like, I'm an older person talking to someone younger than me. You're still a child.
Yes.
So I guess maybe that I don't know if that's a question, but that's something that definitely surprised me. And I was kind of like, I thought he was supposed to make an impression on you, like a strong impression.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's actually a very good point. I did think we were, I did think, I guess part of my questions or unanswered thing, going into it was, I did think we were going to get more perspective during the Phantom Menace. That part of the book is actually really short. It's just at the end, right? I for some reason envisioned it when I heard that was going to happen in the book. For some reason, I thought it was going to be a lot more perspective, a lot more of her point of view of what happened. And I thought, like you, I thought there was going to be more interaction with Anakin and to see that seed start blossoming. But no, it wasn't in there. and I think that's okay. I mean, do you remember was there a mention of Anakin and Queen Shadow? Did she talk about Anakin? I don't think she did she?
I don't remember Anakin being mentioned once in Queen Shadow. Maybe there was like the young Jedi that was with, like, but they don't even mention his name, if he's even mentioned in that book at all.
Agreed. And so, so I was surprised by that. I think the one thing I did learn from this book, which I don't think I knew, was I don't think I realized that Amidala was actually a made up name. For some reason, I was under the impression that Amidala was part of her name. I thought she was Padme Nabiri Amidala, and then she just went by Queen Amidala. But Queen Amidala is, like you said earlier, about identities. She's protecting Padme as her identity by taking Queen Amidala, which I didn't really know that. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is something else I learned, but to me, like, that didn't have as lasting an impact to me as more of the character. Because I think for me with that, it was more or less of like, okay, it's a name. Is that her name? It doesn't really matter. But
yeah,
it is interesting that, and also just to learn about the customs of Naboo, their elaborate ceremonies and how her makeup design, that's what they do.
Yes, that's part of it.
That's part of it. It's just. Oh.
But what was surprising to me is if you think about it, like when we elect a president, he doesn't use a fake name, right? I mean, he doesn't hide his identity. His identity is out there. So it's just kind of, it was a little bit surprising to me that when she gets elected, it's like, we're trying to protect your family, even though you are an elected official and leader of this planet, but we still want to protect you and your family. So no one's going to really know I guess. And when they're campaigning, I guess she's campaigning as Amidala, not Padme. Right. So so at some point people there's some people that have to know who she is. So it's not like she can hide from everybody, but it was just a little interesting how the queen she has a secret identity in a sense, right? So, but anyway, last thing we want to talk about here is really, because I guess we both definitely love the book. Is now I don't think we should give away the end.
No.
Yeah. Okay. No. But what would you like to see next from Padme? There's obviously, I think there's been talks that E.K. Johnston is going to do a third book. Again, the ending hints at that a little bit, but what would you like to see next? What part of the timeline would you like to see her go?
I want to keep going. I would love to see the gap between. I would like to further the depth of the gap between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Leading up to that faithful, sad moment that I'm gonna leave right there. I think it'd be really cool to just, because I love the fact that the books are filling in so many gaps and are bringing so much meaning to the movies that we know and love.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's a weakness of the movie, that's a discussion for another day. But book-wise, there is so much more you can explore. So, I mean, honestly, pick up where the book left off and keep going.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Interesting. I think so with this book we see her get elected
Yes.
and become queen, right? And Queen Shadow, if I remember correctly, it's her leaving, right? I think her term was 4 years. It's her leaving the queen and becoming senator, right? The senator, right? So I agree with you. I think the next natural progression, I guess, is that time as the senator, and when all of a sudden the separatist movement started happening, right? Because I'm with you. I'm not really big into politics and all that stuff, but I find politics in Star Wars very interesting for some reason.
In the book,
And
really.
yeah. And I think I do think that would be interesting because the beginning of episode 2, the separatists and all that stuff, by that point they had already collected thousands of systems. So it had started years prior to that. So it'd be good to see that beginning part. I think is when did the first separatists started coming out and fighting against the Republic and demanding change and demanding separation, and what actions did the Republic take, specifically Padme, in those decisions. I think that's a good storyline there, I think, to expand on.
Well, I also think in addition to that, because one thing that always kind of confused me was why did someone want to go after her specifically in Attack of the Clones? So I think by leading up to that moment, you will answer that question.
Yeah.
Because in Queen Shadow, we already get the idea that she's controversial. She speaks her mind. She's not afraid to do that, and that got her into trouble.
Right.
I won't give it away, but that got her into trouble.
It did.
So I think we need to then connect the dot between that and people actually wanting to assassinate her.
Yeah. That's good.
So
totally agree with that. So yes. So I think I think we're pretty much in agreement. I guess, well, since this is the first episode, should we do like a rating system? I haven't even thought about that, but no.
We could, but this would start off as 1 because it's the first book that we
start off as 1. What do you mean start off as 1?
Start up as 1 because, and then when we talk about more books, that
the bar. Yeah. Well, I mean, we could do. Well, I mean, you could do like a 5-star rating. Like, is it what? How many stars would you give this book?
I would give this book, Queen's Peril, I would give it 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
4.5 out of 5.
4.5 out of 5. Wow, that's good. Okay. I'd give it 4. I give it a 4. Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as 4.5, but I would go 4. I think it's really good. I think we're both in agreement that people should really check this book out. And again, I think we established too. You could start off with this book and then go to Queen Shadow if you haven't read Queen Shadow yet, right?
Yeah, I read Queen Shadow after Queen's Peril, so for me,
honestly, you did that? Yeah, okay.
I did. I read Peril first and then Shadow. So yeah, no, absolutely, you could totally do that because I'm sure there are some moments in Queen Shadow that are set up in Queen's Peril that they don't confuse you, but you're like, oh, that's weird that they point that out.
Yeah,
and then keep going. So
cool.
But it doesn't matter. Just enjoy both. They're both great.
That's right. Yeah. And if you want to hear Padme read it to you, then do the audiobook. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody, on this first episode of Beyond the Saga. Thank you to Hannah Burr for joining me on this first episode. I really appreciate it. And we will do more of these. So check back. Not really on a schedule yet, but we're just going to do them as we go. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Inside the Force to get notified when these things start dropping. So, and I can't even tease what we're going to do next. So I don't know. So, so thanks everybody. Hannah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody. May the Force be with you.